If you're managing a startup team, the last thing you want is a messy and costly legal battle if the founders start fighting. Founders are the heart and soul of a great startup, but often end up disagreeing on key issues such as equity, stock options, voting rights, and more. This short course will cover how to draft a founders agreement and the fundamentals of ESOPs. Section 1. Founders Agreement. When starting a business with someone else, it is important to have a written agreement like a founders agreement. This can help you deal with issues that might make your relationship with that person turn sour. What is a founders agreement? A founders agreement is a legal contract entered into by the founders of a startup. It can cover everything from who's involved, all co-founders' roles and responsibilities, contribution, equity ownership, legal services, and what happens if someone leaves. So, why do you need a founders agreement? The following are some of the reasons for having a founders agreement. Establishes roles and responsibilities for ownership, minority shareholders are protected, provides guidelines for contract termination, guides dealing with a dissolution, confirms the seriousness of your company's formation. And what should a founders agreement cover? Here are the basic elements. Names of founders and company, ownership structure, the project, initial capital and additional contributions, roles and responsibilities, voting rights, vesting schedule, assignment of intellectual property, IP, confidentiality, founders' removal or departure, clauses of dissolution and termination, resolution of disputes. Let's take an in-depth look at the elements of a founders agreement. Names of founders and company, almost none of us can argue with this one. First and foremost, founders agreements should include the names of all parties involved. Also ensure your startup's name is included, even if it may change later. Ownership structure, this is where you decide how much of the company, equity ownership, each member, that is, you and your co-founders, owns. This figure may change as personnel join and leave the company. The project in this section, you should include a sentence or two describing your business plan, like what you're doing, each founder's interests, and some of your startup-specific details. Initial capital and additional contributions, every founder in your startup contributed something to the company's success. That contribution could be in cash, property, services rendered, a promissory note, a combination, or even a promise of one of those mentioned above. Roles and responsibilities, a founders agreement should define all aspects of the roles and responsibilities of all co-founders and be stated in mutual written consent to be referenced as the business grows. Voting rights, a founders agreement should specify who will be allowed to vote on company decisions. Who doesn't? What aspects will they have the power to vote on? Moving on to vesting schedule, the vesting schedule governs when each co-founder receives their shares. A vesting schedule means that instead of a founder receiving all the promised shares immediately, they gradually become fully entitled to them, or vest in them. Assignment of intellectual property, IP, refers to everything that contributes to the uniqueness of your startup. What does your startup make in-house? Your startup's intellectual property could include blog posts, designs, app ideas, general ideas, or something very specific to what you all do. Confidentiality, founders should agree not to disclose any confidential information or trade secrets about the company to any third party unless it is necessary to further the company's interests. Founders' removal or departure, the remaining members can purchase that member's interests under this section. If you decide to include buyout rights, specify how the buyout would take place, the buyout price, and the payout terms. Clauses of dissolution and termination outline the circumstances or events that would cause your company to dissolve. If your company dissolves, you should also specify winding up procedures and waterfall distributions of its assets. Finally, resolution of disputes. What will you do if a disagreement listed in this agreement comes up? This is where you will outline the procedure. Many startup founders require that disputes with the founders' agreement be resolved through binding arbitration. Still, the decision is entirely up to you and your co-founders. You were happy when you found your awesome co-founders to build your new startup. You thought, finally, I found someone with whom I can share everything. But how do you make a founders' agreement? There is a lot to talk about, isn't it? Step 1. Select a template. Templates can be found all over the internet. Choose the best one for your startup, or make your own by combining elements mentioned from the previous slides. The goal is to draft a founder's agreement that meets the needs of you, your co-founders, and your startup. Step 2. Fill out the easy sections. Go through and fill out all the sections that don't require much thought. Things like your names, location, when the company was founded, and the company's name, if you have one. Basically, it's anything on which you don't need to consult with each other. Step 3. Take time to work out the difficult sections. This is the stage at which you and your co-founders must sort through all the complexities, from equity to compensation to termination, and decide what you want to do. Step 4. Seek legal counsel if necessary. Having a professional, legal, and non-invested eye look over the document can help ensure that everyone is protected in the future. They are also more likely to notice legal nuances that you may have overlooked. Step 5. Get a second opinion. Legal opinions are not the only ones. Having a fellow entrepreneur or an advisor review your founder's agreement is also a good idea. If it makes you feel more at ease, you can conceal personal or financial information. Step 6. Review and sign. Finally, give each of your co-founders enough time to review their copy of the founder's agreement, consult with their lawyers if necessary, and sign and date it. It becomes a legally binding document once everyone has signed and dated it. Section 2. Employee Stock Ownership Plan, or ESOP. So, what is an ESOP anyway? That's the question people ask a lot. For those who don't know yet, ESOP stands for Employee Stock Ownership Plan. An ESOP is an employee benefit plan allowing employees to own a portion or all of the company they work for. ESOPs are most commonly used to aid succession planning by enabling company owners to sell their shares and transition out of business flexibly. Closely held corporations can use it, nonprofit organizations, and even local governments. The ESOP allows you to own stock in your company while simultaneously making it more likely that your business will succeed because it's owned by the people working there. The advantages of establishing an ESOP are multifaceted, benefiting both owners and employees. ESOPs can increase productivity, employee retention, tax benefits, and job satisfaction. ESOPs are also appealing because they provide a financing tool for the company, which can sell its stock to the ESOP and use the proceeds to pay off debt, for example. A simple illustration of how ESOPs work can be seen on the screen. Understanding what an ESOP is the first step toward ensuring your company goes above and beyond regarding employee benefits. This can be confusing and daunting, but if you know exactly what you're getting into, you can be confident that your business is doing things the right way. Here's a pretty good explanation of how an ESOP works. The most typical way that an ESOP operates is when the founders decide how much of the company's shares will be ESOPs, and then park those ESOP shares under the founders. Another method is when the company establishes an ESOP trust. The company can contribute cash to that trust to buy shares of stock from existing owners at no more than fair market value. The company can issue new shares if the owner does not want to sell shares. If the company does not have the cash to do so right away, the ESOP can take out a loan to buy new or existing shares while the company contributes funds to pay off the trust's loan. Employees receive trust shares, which are typically distributed based on relative pay. As they continue to work for the company, their right to the shares increases, a process known as vesting. When an employee leaves the company, they receive their stock, which the company is required to buy back at fair market value. As a result, the employee gets the value of their shares from the trust, usually in cash. If you're considering implementing an ESOP, the essential elements of what an ESOP agreement covers are as follows. Employee participation. ESOP agreement specifies which employees are eligible to participate in the stock purchase program, and when they can begin purchasing stock. The agreement also mentions how long the company must employ the employee to participate. Employer contributions. The agreement specifies the dates by which the company must make its contributions to the trustee, and how and when any bonus contributions must be handled. Vesting and qualifications. Vesting refers to a worker's work period before receiving a specific benefit. The vesting schedule for employees is specified in an ESOP agreement, either as cliff vesting or graded vesting. In the case of cliff vesting, the employee becomes fully vested after 3 years of service but receives no benefits before that. The employee receives a steady increase in the percentage of benefits available each year until he becomes fully vested in graded vesting. Employee benefits. An ESOP's primary benefit is as a source of retirement funds. When a vested employee is ready to retire, the agreement allows her to withdraw the proceeds from her ESOP account and receive the funds as a lump sum or in regular installments. If you've decided that an employee stock ownership plan, ESOP, is worth investigating, you'll need to take a few steps to set up one. Step 1. If all the company's owners agree to sell or dilute their shares, the next step is a feasibility study. A feasibility study, which can be performed in-house, examines the following. It must determine how much extra cash flow the company has to devote to the ESOP, and whether this is sufficient for the purposes for which the ESOP is intended. It must determine whether the company has enough payroll for ESOP participants to make ESOP contributions deductible. Remember to account for the effect of any other benefit plans that will be kept in place in these calculations. Estimates must be made regarding the repurchase obligation and the company's approach to handling it. Step 2. The next step is to conduct a business valuation. If the price is too low, the seller may refuse to sell. If the price is too high, the company may be unable to purchase these shares. Step 3. Obtain funding for your ESOP. This can come from many sources. For example, a bank, seller, or another party may lend money to the ESOP. The company can make ongoing contributions. Employees can contribute to the plan through wage or benefit concessions. Step 4. Create a process to carry out your plan. Select an internal or external trustee to oversee the plan and be directed by an ESOP committee of managerial and non-managerial representation. Employees should be informed about the plan for them to participate. We have come to the end of our session. Thank you for listening.